Most men think losing her attention means they need to fight harder for it. What if I told you the opposite is true? She's pulling away. The texts are getting shorter. The warmth in her eyes has cooled. And every guy you know is telling you the same thing. Fight for her, man. Don't give up. Show her how much you care. But here's what nobody's telling you, and what's about to change everything you think you know about attraction. The harder you chase someone who's pulling away, the faster they run. I know that sounds backwards. I know it goes against every romantic movie you've ever watched, every love song you've ever heard, every piece of advice your friends have given you. But stick with me, because what I'm about to share isn't just theory. It's ancient wisdom that's been turning ordinary men into legends for over 2,000 years. See, while other guys are texting more, you're going to text less. While they're explaining their feelings, you're going to master your emotions. While they're chasing, you're going to become worth chasing. Because the man who needs no one's validation to stand tall is the man everyone remembers. This isn't about games. This isn't about manipulation. This is about something deeper. Something that will not only potentially win her back, but will build you into the kind of man who never has to beg for anyone's attention again. Her pulling away isn't your defeat. It's your invitation to become unbreakable. Ready to flip the script? Let's begin. Number 1. The power of strategic absence. Why distance creates desire. Absence isn't about leaving. It's about creating space where your value can grow deep and undeniable. When she starts pulling away, your instinct, your desperate instinct, is to close that gap. To text her, to call her, to show up, to fill every moment of silence with words, explanations, reassurances. But Marcus Aurelius teaches us something profound. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The space between you and her, that's not empty territory to be conquered. That's sacred ground where your true worth reveals itself. Think about a mountain. When you're standing right next to it, pressing your face against the rock, what do you see? Nothing. Just stone and dirt. No majesty, no power, no perspective. But step back, create distance, and suddenly you see the whole mountain, its strength, its beauty, its undeniable presence dominating the landscape. That's what absence does for your value. When you're constantly in her space, texting, calling, explaining, pursuing, she can't see your worth. She only sees your need, your desperation, your inability to stand alone. But when you step back, when you create space, when you let silence do the talking, something shifts. She begins to feel the weight of what's missing. I'm not talking about playing hard to get. I'm talking about something deeper. I'm talking about cultivating such a rich, meaningful life that her presence becomes a choice, not a necessity. See, absence without substance is just emptiness. But absence with depth, absence where you're building yourself, growing yourself, becoming more of who you're meant to be, that's magnetic. When she realizes you're not chasing, when she feels that you've stepped back not out of anger or manipulation, but out of self-respect, That's when the questions start. Why isn't he reaching out? What's he doing with his time? Did I underestimate him? Your absence becomes her curiosity. And curiosity, that wondering, that questioning, that need to know, that's where attraction lives. But here's the key. You can't fake this. The absence has to be real. It has to come from a genuine place of self-investment, not a calculated move to get her attention. Build something in that space. Build your strength. Build your mind. Build your purpose. Build a life so compelling that her absence doesn't leave a hole. It just makes room for more growth. Because when you do that, when your absence carries the weight of a man who's too busy becoming legendary to sit around waiting for someone who doesn't see his worth, that's when she starts to see the mountain. Number 2, emotional self-control. The attractive man's secret weapon. Here's a truth that will change everything for you. How you control your emotions in the face of loss determines how valuable you appear to everyone watching. When she pulls away, you feel it in your chest. That tightness, that panic, that overwhelming urge to do something, anything, to stop the distance from growing. Your emotions are screaming at you. Fix this. Chase her. Explain yourself. Don't let her go. But here's what Epictetus understood. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Your reaction is your reputation. Let me paint you 2 pictures. Picture 1. A man who, the moment he senses distance, starts firing off texts, long paragraphs explaining his feelings, voice messages at midnight, showing up unannounced, emotional outbursts, begging for explanations, demanding to know what went wrong. What does that man signal? Desperation, lack of control, emotional instability, a man who crumbles the moment life doesn't go his way. Picture 2. A man who, when he feels that shift, takes a deep breath, steps back, processes his emotions privately, maintains his composure, continues with his life, doesn't react from panic, but responds from strength. What does that man signal? Control, stability, emotional maturity. A man who can weather storms without losing himself. Which man commands respect? See, when you lose emotional control, when you let your feelings drive your actions, you're essentially handing her a message that says, my peace depends entirely on your presence, and that's suffocating. Nobody wants to be responsible for another person's emotional stability. It's too much weight, too much pressure. It turns some into obligation. But when you maintain your emotional equilibrium, when you show that your inner peace isn't dependent on her mood, her attention, or her affection, you signal something powerful. I am stable. I am whole. I am choosing you, not needing you. This isn't about suppressing emotions. This isn't about pretending you don't care. This is about emotional intelligence, feeling deeply but acting wisely. Process your pain privately. Journal it. Work out with it. Talk to a trusted friend. Feel it fully, but don't let it drive your actions toward her. Because here's what happens when you maintain emotional restraint. She starts to wonder, why isn't he falling apart? Why isn't he chasing me? Is he stronger than I thought? And strength, real, quiet, unshakable strength, is incredibly attractive. Remember, you don't have to prove your emotions to validate them. You don't need to show her how much you're hurting for your pain to be real. But what you do need to show is that you're bigger than your pain, that you can feel deeply without losing yourself, that you're the kind of man who stays steady even when the world shifts. That's the man she remembers. That's the man she respects. That's the man she can't forget. Your emotional restraint isn't indifference, it's strength, and strength is magnetic. Number 3, the mystery factor. Why less information sparks more interest. Here's something most men get completely wrong. Mystery, not desperation or oversharing, is what sparks genuine interest. When you feel her pulling away, your instinct is to open up more, to share more, to explain more, to let her see deeper into your thoughts, your feelings, your fears, thinking that more transparency will somehow bridge the gap. But transparency without boundaries isn't intimacy, it's overwhelm. Think about your favorite movie. What made you want to keep watching? Was it because the director explained every plot twist in the first 10 minutes? Or was it because they revealed just enough to keep you intrigued, just enough to make you lean forward and think, I need to know what happens next? Your presence should work the same way. When she knows everything about your day, when she can predict your responses, when you've shared every thought and feeling, where's the mystery? Where's the intrigue? Where's the desire to discover more? Seneca wrote, "Nothing is ours except time." And part of honoring your time is not giving away every piece of yourself to someone who's unsure about wanting it. Let me be clear. This isn't about being distant or cold. This isn't about playing games or withholding affection. This is about understanding that mystery is a form of respect. Respect for her mind and respect for your own worth. When you maintain some mystery, you're saying, I'm not an open book that can be read in one sitting. I'm a library, rich, deep, worth exploring. So instead of telling her about every workout, every thought, every mundane detail of your day, choose what you share. Share the meaningful moments. Share the victories. Share the growth. But leave space for her to wonder. Leave room for her to be curious about what you're not saying. Here's what mystery does. It makes your attention feel valuable. When someone doesn't know everything about you, the moments when you do share something personal carry more weight. It creates mental space for her to think about you. When she can't predict your next move, your next text, your next response, you occupy her mind. It signals that you have a life beyond her. Mystery suggests depth, complexity, a rich inner world that exists independent of her presence. But here's the crucial part. The mystery has to be built on substance. Don't be mysterious about nothing. Be mysterious because you're actually doing interesting things, building meaningful projects, growing in ways that matter. Be the man who shares less because he's living more, not because he's trying to manipulate her attention. When she asks, "What have you been up to?" And you can honestly say, just working on some projects that excite me, without feeling the need to elaborate on every detail. When you can be present with her without needing to fill every silence with words, that's when her mind starts working. What projects? Why is he so calm? What's he not telling me? And that curiosity, that mental engagement, that's where attraction grows. Remember, you don't need to be an open book to be authentic. You just need to be selectively honest about what's worth sharing. Number 4, authentic presence over performance. Be real, not perfect. True presence doesn't require performance. It simply is. When you feel her interest fading, your instinct is to turn up the heat, to be funnier, to be more charming, to be more attentive, to perform your way back into her heart. But here's the problem with performance. It's exhausting. And eventually, the real you shows up anyway. Think about the most compelling people you know. The ones who command a room without saying much. The ones who make you feel calm just by being around them. Are they performing? Are they trying to impress you? Or are they simply there, comfortable in their own skin, grounded in their own truth? That's presence. Marcus Aurelius reminds us how much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does. Stop watching her reactions. Stop analyzing her responses. Stop adjusting your behavior based on her mood, her attention, her approval. Instead, show up as yourself. Not the version of yourself you think she wants. Not the performing, trying too hard version. Just you. Here's what presence without performance looks like. You speak when you have something meaningful to say, not to fill silence. You share your thoughts and opinions honestly, even if they might not align perfectly with hers. You maintain your values and boundaries, regardless of her response. You're comfortable with pauses in conversation, comfortable with not being the entertainer. You don't change your energy to match hers. You stay grounded in your own. See, when you perform for someone, you're essentially saying, the real me isn't enough. I need to be someone else to keep your interest. But when you show up with authentic presence, you're saying something completely different. This is who I am. I'm not asking for your approval. I'm offering you the opportunity to appreciate it. That confidence is magnetic. But here's the deeper truth. Authentic presence isn't just attractive to her. It's healing for you. When you stop performing, you stop exhausting yourself. You stop living in constant anxiety about whether you're doing enough or being enough. You find peace in simply being yourself. And that peace, that groundedness, that's what people feel when they're around you. I'm not saying don't put effort into the relationship. I'm saying put effort into being the best version of who you actually are, not into becoming someone you're not. Because if she falls for the performance, she's not falling for you. She's falling for an act that you can't maintain forever. But if she's drawn to your authentic presence, your calm confidence, your genuine self, your unperformed truth, then she's connecting with something real, something sustainable. And if she's not drawn to your authentic presence, then she's not your person. That's not a rejection of your worth. That's information about compatibility. The right woman won't need you to perform. She'll be drawn to who you are when you're not trying. She'll appreciate your presence because it feels real, not because it feels forced. Your job isn't to be perfect. Your job is to be genuine. And genuine presence, calm, grounded, authentic, is incredibly rare and incredibly powerful. Before we jump into part number 5, take a moment to do me a small favor. Hit like, subscribe, and share this message. Your simple action can help more people who are struggling with this issue find the content they need. Thank you for being a part of this. Number 5, create the gap. Make her feel what she's missing. The space you leave behind is where she begins to notice what she's missing. When she starts pulling away, you panic. You try to fill every gap, every silence, every moment of distance with more of yourself, more attention, more communication, more presence. But here's what you're actually doing. You're preventing her from missing you. Think about it logically. How can someone miss something that's always there? How can they appreciate something they never have to live without? Absence is where appreciation grows. I want you to imagine water. When it's always flowing from the faucet, you don't think about it. You don't value it. You take it for granted. But turn off that faucet. Let the well run dry. And suddenly, you understand just how essential water is. Your presence works the same way. When you're constantly available, always responding immediately, always reaching out first, always filling the silence, she doesn't get the chance to feel your absence. She doesn't get to experience what life feels like without your energy, your attention, your presence. But when you step back, when you give her space to breathe, when you let silence exist between you, that's when she starts to feel the gap. And in that gap, something powerful happens. She starts to remember. She remembers your laugh. She remembers how you made her feel safe. She remembers the way you looked at her. She remembers the conversations that mattered. She remembers what it was like to have your attention, your energy, your presence in her life. But here's the crucial part. You can't create fake absence. This isn't about ignoring her texts for calculated periods of time. This isn't about disappearing as a manipulation tactic. Real absence, the kind that creates genuine longing, comes from genuine investment in your own life. You step back not to hurt her, but to honor yourself. You create space not to play games, but to focus on your own growth, your own goals, your own journey. You become unavailable because you're genuinely busy building something meaningful, not because you're sitting at home pretending to be busy. Here's what happens when the absence is real. She notices the shift in energy. Suddenly, you're not the one initiating contact. You're not the one asking about her day. You're not the one trying to keep the conversation going. She starts to wonder, where did he go? What's he doing? Why isn't he reaching out? She checks your social media and sees you living, growing, thriving, without seeming to need her validation or presence. And slowly, a realization creeps in. I might be losing him. That realization changes everything, because suddenly, you're not the one chasing. You're not the one trying to prove your worth. You're the one who might slip away if she doesn't act. You become the prize again, not the pursuer. But remember, This only works if the absence is filled with substance. If you're just sitting at home, waiting for her to notice you're gone, she'll sense the emptiness. She'll know it's a game. But if you're genuinely building a life so rich and fulfilling that you don't have time to sit around hoping for someone else's attention, that's when your absence becomes her wake-up call. Number 6, value your attention. Stop giving it away for free. Attention is a gift, not something you beg for. And when it's given freely, it carries real power. Most men have this backwards. They treat attention like a transaction. They give their attention desperately, hoping to receive it in return. They text constantly, hoping for responses. They compliment endlessly, hoping for validation. They shower her with attention, thinking that more attention equals more attraction. But that's not how value works. What you give away freely has no value. What you give selectively becomes precious. Think about this. If someone handed you a $100 bill every time you walked past them on the street, how would you feel about that $100 bill by the end of the week? Probably not very special. It's too easy, too available, too expected. But if someone you respected, someone who rarely gave compliments or gifts, handed you that same $100 bill and said, "I want you to have this because I genuinely believe you've earned it," how would that feel? Completely different, right? Your attention works the same way. When you're always available, when you always respond immediately, when your attention is guaranteed, regardless of how she treats you, it loses its power. But when your attention becomes something she has to earn, when it's given based on mutual respect and genuine connection, when it's offered freely but not desperately, that's when it becomes valuable. Seneca taught, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." Sometimes you have to end the pattern of giving your attention away freely before you can begin the pattern of having it valued appropriately. Here's how this looks in practice. Instead of always being the first to text, sometimes you wait, not as a game, but because you're genuinely busy with your own life. Instead of responding immediately to every message, you respond thoughtfully when you have something meaningful to add. Instead of showering her with compliments, you give authentic appreciation when you genuinely feel it. Instead of being available every time she wants to hang out, you have your own schedule, your own priorities, your own life that she needs to fit into, not the other way around. This isn't about being cold or withholding. This is about having standards. When your attention has standards, when it's given based on mutual respect, genuine connection, and reciprocal effort, it becomes something worth pursuing. Here's what happens. She starts to notice when you're not paying attention to her. She feels the difference between your focused presence and your absence. She begins to value your responses more because they're not guaranteed. When you do engage, it feels meaningful because it's chosen, not compulsive. She starts to work for your attention instead of expecting it. And when someone works for something, they appreciate it more. The paradox is this: the less desperately you need her attention, the more likely you are to receive it. Because when your attention is a gift freely given, rather than a plea desperately offered, she feels the difference. She senses your self-respect. She recognizes your value. And value, real, authentic value, is always attractive. Remember, you teach people how to treat you by how you treat yourself. If you give your attention away like it's worthless, others will treat it as worthless too. Number 7. Master clear communication. Why less words have more impact. Here's something that will transform how you communicate. Speaking less, but meaning more, beats noisy, desperate words every single time. When you feel her pulling away, your instinct is to talk more, to explain more, to fill every silence with words, to send longer texts, have deeper conversations, share more thoughts, thinking that more communication will somehow bridge the growing distance. But here's the harsh truth. Most of what you say in desperation makes things worse, not better. Why? Because desperate words carry desperate energy. When you're speaking from a place of fear of losing her, fear of silence, fear of being misunderstood, your words become cluttered with anxiety. You over-explain when a simple statement would do. You justify when no justification is needed. You fill comfortable silences with uncomfortable chatter. But clarity is power. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be like the rocky headland on which the waves constantly break. It stands firm, and round it the seething waters are laid to rest." Your words should be like that headland, solid, steady, unmovable. Here's what clarity looks like. When she asks what you've been up to, instead of launching into a detailed account of every mundane activity, you say, "Just working on some projects that matter to me." Simple, clear, complete. When there's tension, instead of a long paragraph analyzing the situation, you say, "I think we both need some space to figure out what we want." Direct, honest, clean. When you want to share something meaningful, you choose your words carefully. You say what you mean what you say, and then you stop talking. Clarity does several powerful things. It shows emotional control. A man who can distill his thoughts into clear, concise words is a man who's master of his emotions, not slave to them. It creates space for her to process. When you're not filling every moment with chatter, she has room to think, to feel, to miss what you're not saying. It makes your words carry weight. When you speak less, people listen more. When you choose your words carefully, they land with more impact. It demonstrates respect for her intelligence, for her time, and for the power of language itself. Here's the practice. Before you send that long text, ask yourself, what's the core message I'm trying to communicate? Then say that. Nothing more. Before you launch into an explanation, ask, did she actually ask for this explanation, or am I just uncomfortable with silence? Before you fill a pause in conversation, ask, is this silence uncomfortable for her, or just for me? Learn to be comfortable with silence. Learn to let your words breathe. Learn that sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Because when you master clarity over chatter, something interesting happens. Your words start to matter. People lean in when you speak because they know you don't waste words. Your silence becomes as meaningful as your speech because both are chosen, not compulsive. And when she's used to your clear, measured communication, when she knows you don't speak just to fill space, then your words carry real weight. The man who speaks clearly and sparingly is the man whose words are remembered. Number 8, set the standard. You teach others how to treat you. This is perhaps the most important lesson you'll learn. How you treat yourself sets the bar for how others treat you, especially her. Every interaction you have with her is a teaching moment, not in some manipulative, calculated way, but in the simple truth that people learn how to treat us by watching how we treat ourselves. If you accept disrespect, you're teaching her that disrespecting you is acceptable. If you make yourself constantly available, regardless of how she treats you, you're teaching her that your time has no value. If you chase her when she pulls away, you're teaching her that her absence makes you desperate. If you tolerate being treated as an option, you're teaching her that you see yourself as an option too. But here's the flip side. If you treat yourself with respect, she learns to respect you. If you value your own time and energy, she learns to value them too. If you maintain your dignity when she's distant, she learns that you're not easily shaken. If you act like a priority in your own life, she starts to see you as a priority too. Epictetus taught, wealth consists in not having great possessions, but in having few wants. The same principle applies to respect. It consists not in demanding it from others, but in demonstrating it for yourself. Here's how this looks practically. Boundary setting. When she cancels plans last minute repeatedly, instead of saying, "It's okay," when it's not, you calmly say, "I understand things come up, but I need to know I can count on the plans we make." You're teaching her that your time matters. Response. Timing. Instead of always responding immediately to texts while she takes hours or days, you respond thoughtfully when you have time. You're teaching her that your attention isn't desperate or guaranteed. Standards. Instead of accepting treatment that doesn't align with your values just to keep the peace, you kindly but firmly hold your ground. You're teaching her what kind of relationship you're willing to have. Self-investment. Instead of dropping everything for her while neglecting your own goals, you maintain your priorities. You're teaching her that you're a man with purpose beyond the relationship. The beautiful thing about this approach is that it's not manipulative. It's authentic. You're not trying to control her behavior. You're simply modeling the kind of respect and treatment you believe you deserve. And then you let her choose how she wants to respond to that model. Some women will rise to meet your standards. They'll respect your boundaries, appreciate your time, and value what you bring to their life. Others won't. They'll push against your boundaries, dismiss your standards, or take your self-respect as a challenge to overcome. Both responses give you valuable information. The woman who respects your self-respect is showing you she's capable of a healthy, mutual relationship. The woman who doesn't is showing you that she's not ready for what you're offering. Either way, you win, because you maintain your dignity, your standards, and your peace. Remember, you can't control how she treats you, but you have complete control over how you treat yourself. And that treatment becomes the curriculum for everyone else. Number 9, build an irresistible life. Your success is your attraction. The life you build is what draws her in, not empty words or desperate chasing. Most men think attraction is something they do, something they perform, something they convince someone to feel, something they create through effort and pursuit. But real attraction, the kind that lasts, the kind that deepens, the kind that makes someone want to be part of your world, isn't something you do. It's something you are. It's the natural result of a life so rich, so purposeful, so genuinely fulfilling that people want to be around the energy you radiate. Think about the most attractive people you know, not just physically, but magnetically attractive. The ones who draw people in without trying. What do they have in common? They're passionate about something beyond themselves. They have purpose. They're building something meaningful. They're growing, evolving, becoming more of who they're meant to be. Their life itself is the attraction. When she pulls away, your instinct is to make her the center of your world, to focus all your energy on winning her back, on proving your worth, on convincing her to choose you. But that's backwards. The man who makes her the center of his world becomes just another planet orbiting her sun. But the man who builds his own solar system, he becomes the gravitational pull. Seneca wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." Maybe her pulling away is the ending of you making her your everything, and the beginning of you making yourself everything you're meant to be. Here's what building your life as the attraction looks like. Purpose over person. Instead of making her your primary focus, you rediscover or deepen your life's purpose. Your work, your mission, your contribution to the world becomes the center of your energy. Growth over games. Instead of strategizing how to get her attention, you invest in becoming more knowledgeable, more skilled, more interesting, more valuable as a human being. Passion over pursuit. Instead of pursuing her, you pursue your interests with genuine enthusiasm. You dive deep into hobbies that excite you, goals that challenge you, experiences that expand you. Community over codependence. Instead of making her your only source of connection and validation, you build rich relationships with friends, family, mentors, colleagues who appreciate and support your journey. Adventure over anxiety. Instead of sitting at home worrying about her feelings toward you, you create experiences, take risks, explore new territories, both literally and figuratively. Here's what happens when you shift your focus. Your energy changes. Instead of the nervous, needy energy of someone trying to win someone back, you radiate the calm confidence of someone who's building something meaningful. Your conversations change. Instead of talking about the relationship, your feelings, or the past, you have interesting things to share because you're living an interesting life. Your presence changes. Instead of being the man who needs her to feel complete, you become the man who's complete on his own, which makes being with you feel like a choice, not a necessity. And most importantly, your attractiveness changes. You stop being the man trying to convince her to want him and become the man others naturally want to be around. Because attraction isn't something you create through pursuit. It's something you embody through purpose. The most attractive thing you can do isn't chase her. It's build a life so compelling that she wants to be part of it. Number 10. The no contact strategy. Less texting, more self-mastery. Here's the final piece of the puzzle. Fewer messages, more mastery of your mind, emotions, and actions. Control yourself first. Everything else follows. When you feel her slipping away, every instinct screams at you to increase contact. More texts, more calls, more attempts to connect, to explain, to understand, to fix whatever's breaking between you. But here's the counterintuitive truth. The less contact you initiate, the more control you gain, not over her, but over yourself. And self-control is the foundation of everything else. Think about it. What does constant contact really accomplish? It makes you appear desperate. It makes your attention feel cheap. It puts her in the position of always responding to your energy instead of initiating her own. It makes the relationship feel one-sided, needy, and ultimately suffocating. But more importantly, it keeps you stuck in reactive mode. When you're constantly reaching out, you're constantly waiting. Waiting for her response. Waiting for her mood to shift. Waiting for her to show interest. Waiting for external validation of your worth. You're living in her timeline instead of your own. Less contact forces you back into your own life. When you're not texting her every thought, you start thinking deeper thoughts. When you're not updating her on every activity, you start having more meaningful activities. When you're not seeking her validation, you start building genuine self-validation. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. Here's how less contact creates more self-control. Mental control. Instead of your mind constantly spinning around what she's thinking, feeling, or doing, you redirect that mental energy toward your own growth, goals, and development. Emotional control. Instead of your emotions being dictated by how quickly she responds or how warmly she engages, you build emotional stability that comes from within. Time control. Instead of being available whenever she wants to connect, you start living by your own schedule, pursuing your own priorities, creating your own rhythm. Energy control. Instead of pouring your energy into analyzing every interaction with her, you channel that energy into activities and relationships that actually nourish you. But here's the crucial point. This isn't about punishment or manipulation. This is about respect. Respect for her space and respect for your own dignity. When you reduce contact, you're not trying to make her miss you, though she might. You're not trying to make her jealous, though she might be. You're not playing a game to get a reaction. You're simply refusing to chase someone who's clearly indicated they need space. You're honoring their pullback while honoring your own self-respect. And something powerful happens in that space. You remember who you are when you're not trying to be what someone else wants. You rediscover interests and passions that got buried under the weight of relationship focus. You build confidence that comes from within rather than from someone else's approval. You create a life so full and meaningful that her presence becomes a beautiful addition, not a desperate necessity. Here's the practice. Instead of texting her every day, text her when you have something genuinely meaningful to share. Instead of always being available when she reaches out, be responsive but not immediately available. Instead of initiating most conversations, Let some silence exist and see what she does with it. Instead of focusing your social media on getting her attention, focus it on documenting your actual life and growth. The result? You become ungovernable, not in a rebellious, destructive way, but in the most attractive way possible. You become a man who can't be controlled by someone else's moods, attention, or approval. You become a man who's mastered the most important thing anyone can master, himself. And that mastery, that self-control, that inner strength, that unshakable peace, that's what real attraction looks like. Let me leave you with this truth. True strength isn't measured by your ability to hold on to someone who's letting go. It's measured by your ability to let go gracefully while holding on to yourself. Everything we've talked about today comes down to one fundamental principle. You are complete without her. Not because you don't care, but because your worth, your peace, your purpose come from within, not from someone else's approval. When you truly understand this, when you feel it in your bones, something shifts. You stop chasing because you don't need to. You stop performing because you're comfortable with who you are. You become the man who chooses love from strength, not need. Here's the beautiful paradox. The moment you stop needing her to complete you, you become the kind of man she can't forget. Not through games or manipulation, but because you've become whole. Whether she comes back or not, you win. If she returns, she's coming back to a stronger, more grounded version of you. If she doesn't, you've freed yourself from needing someone else's approval to feel complete. The goal was never to get her back. The goal was to get yourself back. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." This moment, right now, you have the power to choose who you become. Choose to become unshakable. Choose self-respect over desperation. Choose growth over games. You came into this world whole, and you can leave every situation whole. Her love doesn't define you. Her attention doesn't complete you. You do that for yourself. And when you truly embody that self-mastery, that quiet confidence, that unshakable inner peace, you won't just be the man she might want back. You'll be the man you're proud to be. Stay strong, stay grounded, and remember, your journey to becoming unbreakable starts now. If this message hit you where you needed it, do me a favor. Hit that like button and subscribe for more wisdom on building unshakable inner strength. Share this with a brother who's going through it right now. Your simple action could be exactly what he needs to hear today. Until next time, keep building your empire from within.